Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads and must converse is the channel. Thanks for coming by. Happy Friday. Very cool. I see that my member is here. Teeny tiny 1328. Hi. That's my mom. Um, Happy Friday, everybody. Jim reads too slow in the house. TGIF. That's what I'm talking about, man. I'm all about the Fridays, man. Not just for the live, but it's a big reason why. Not just the live, right? Yeah, what's up, Quentin? Happy Friday. Thanks for coming by. So tonight is going to be insane. Completely insane. Thank you for coming by. We're going to have a blast. And I thought about calling it the Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun Super Show, but I just went with, Friday Reads Live instead. For now, we'll see what we get into tonight. I'm gonna go through the wrap up. I'm gonna go through the week pretty quickly because what I really want to do is get on with my boys. And anybody else who wants to jump on, I'll actually make it an open join. If you've read the Book of the New Sun and the Urth of the New Sun, or portions of it, you can jump on and talk with us. We're not going to go through the books chronologically. I think that it's been long enough that since we've read it, that I want to stick to characters or themes and then just dig into them as we go through the talk. But we'll see once my collaborators jump on and we start getting into it. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Connor, happy Friday. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, man. What up? What up? Tyler, the Falcons in the house. Work was tough today, man. I was doing some tedious work today too. You can see some of that on my Instagram. I share some more personal stuff on my Instagram stories. But I'm glad it's over, right? Okay, so I finished Possession by AS Byatt. I can tell you this book is freaking awesome. It's beautiful. It provides a real place. Byatt sets herself up for success with a setting, exploring these Victorian poets, and she can flex her poetic skills and storytelling skills. There's like folk tales woven in through here, this kind of thing, mythology woven in a Victorian style. And Byatt is flexing style bigger, uh, larger than any other aspect in this book, I think, with dialogue and how characters are uh, really given uh, a deep truth to themselves by the words that are on the page and how they talk. You are drawn right into them. It is a literary mystery, and it's not afraid to really go crazy. It keeps going. The climax is really awesome. The end is super satisfying. I loved it. I really loved it. So that's all I'm going to say on that for now. I will do some content on this. It deserves it, right? Anybody who's read Possession knows that. It's really worth the Man Booker Prize. That's what it won. Hey Alexa, happy Friday. Nice to see you, brother. And Alexa was in the Book of the New Sun reading with us, read the Book of the New Sun complete series and Urth of the New Sun, the fifth book in the series. So we'll see what we get to tonight, brother. Thanks for coming by. Happy Friday. Hey Lady Jane. If y'all see, happy Friday, by the way. Thanks for coming by. If you see, I got my setup a little different over here in the corner. This desk is actually pretty long, so I have my laptop now on this corner of the desk. You can't even see it, and I have still all this space to work with. And I got it set up like that because now I can do some writing. Maybe do some writing sprints here, set up like this with my laptop, and do some kind of productivity sprints, whatever it might be, to get into the a little more author tube writing centric content, because I am going to be sharing some writing coming soon. Just a little spoiler, Ryan and I have pinned down a day where he's going to get on the live with me, and we're just going to be talking about our project and we'll share some stuff that we've written. So, to piggyback off of the AS Byatt a little bit, uh, the Codex Cantina boys, Una and Crypto, released a video this week on AS Byatt's short story, The Thing in the Forest. It was an awesome discussion. So, The Thing in the Forest is the first short story in AS Byatt's Little Black Book of Stories here. I'm going to get into some short stories uh, from her as well. She definitely deserves to be read. Can't wait to see where she goes. Happy Friday, Lady Jane Books. Heck yeah. Working Man Reads in the house. Happy 100 or 1000 K, 1000 subscribers, 1K subscribers. Josh, you definitely deserve it, bro. Nice to see you. And awesome. Dude, it's awesome to see. Hey, Jesse Reads and Meditates. Happy Friday. Nice to see you. It's awesome to see the response to writing, guys. Thank you so much for it. There's always that kind of self-doubt. So keep it coming. Okay? We're going to share. Be kind. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. PG, happy Friday, bro. Yeah, man. I saw your latest video as well. Pretty fun. Pretty fun. Glad you liked it um better than Logic's book, right? Yeah, I wish Alexa would hop on to the live tonight, but Alexa's like milking cows or something, right? Or harvesting the fields at this point, right? All right, so speaking of the Codex Cantina boys, I just did a video 2 nights ago. I went and stopped by the Codex Cantina. Crypto and Una and I had a lot of fun talking through some Edgar Allan Poe. That is locked and loaded over on Codex Cantina. It's going to be dropped more around the holidays, I'm sure. We really got to some cool places talking Poe. We read The Black Cat. So if you're familiar with The Black Cat, this is a story in the vein of Telltale Heart, where somebody is going mad by some um maybe irrational annoyance, okay? But the madness is real, and the madness is what Poe is deftly describing, very uh, calling out to the philosophical, calling out to the spiritual side, but also fighting that tooth and nail. We did some cool discussion. I'll leave it at that and just say that was part of my week, right? But I also had retouched The Fall of the House of Usher. The Fall of the House of Usher is one of my favorite kind of apocalyptics from Edgar Allan Poe, right? So I have this illustrated version. Look at this. I mean, the some of the drawings in this are great. So the Fall of the House of Usher is real atmospheric, right? And that's what it's really all about in the writing. So it's really cool to have these visuals to go along with the Fall of the House of Usher, because there's not that. That's the only thing that's missing. Poe was absolutely a master at this poetic voice and atmosphere and imagery, right? I love Poe's poetry. Poe's poetry is some of my favorite. He had just one of the most exact ears for alliteration and the sound, the lyrical nature of voice and using words. Love it. Pose a fake for sure. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Tom. Hey, wash your hands, man. Get ready. We're about to get to it. That's for sure. Pose a fave for sure. Got an A, you think? You should get an A, bro. Um, the Black Cat is very cool. and short. Just a short, powerful little piece. Yeah, that is Fall of the House of Usher is definitely a favorite. Yeah, happy Friday for sure. Do it, Quentin. Do it, and I'll be the first to troll you. How about this? We'll have a troll off. I've had some really cool ideas on trolling videos, but never had the courage to pull the trigger on them. So just throwing that out there. Yeah, there. Look, Alexa is milking cows. I called it. I love you, brother. I love you, brother. That is so funny. Yeah, man, I love this guy. Alexa read that whole series with us. What a strong reader. That's what I like having around me, baby. What's up, Booknick? Happy Friday. Nice to see you. Booknick with the smoking chat. Booknick does book content, but also pipe smoking content. If you guys are interested in that kind of culture, different tobaccos, things like this, I'm sure there's all different flavors and all different levels of harshness, this kind of thing. And it's for the discriminating taste, right? So happy to see you, bro. If you are interested in that, check out his channel. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Who's on it tonight? So I'm slowly but surely making my way through Lost Girls. Okay, it's not my thing. I can't wait to see where Alan Moore goes. There's a lot about Lost Girls that is very interesting, and I can't wait to see where the story goes. But literally, I can't show you any page of this thing. The whole story is told through sexual encounters. It's wild because it's all visual, right? A huge, oversized art level graphic novel that is um, some really awesome turns on the stories of Alice in Wonderland, Dorothy, The Wizard of Oz, and Wendy, the Never Neverland, and Peter Pan. These kind of stories are just completely Alan Moored. I'll do some content on it, but I don't know if I'm going to talk about it as I'm going through it at all because it's all about with the story. It's like, what is he doing here? What is he going for? So, what I will talk about is Alan Moore's Illuminations. This is Alan Moore's new short story collection. I was lucky enough to get my hand on an advanced reader's copy here, and so I'm working my way through it. The first story is hypothetical lizard, and I dropped a video on that earlier this week. I'm sure if you follow, you saw, and you might not want to be. I didn't spoil anything in it, but I'm definitely down for spoiler conversation. So once this gets out and people are talking about it, and you've read Hypothetical Lizard, then maybe we'll talk about it on a live just in the chat and just kind of talk about what Alan Moore did with that short story because it's awesome. And if people don't want to be spoiled, they can put on earmuffs or something. But either you're gonna read it or you're not. It's a short story. It's not a big deal. It's just not a big deal. But it is a very, very strong short story. Hey, Lady Jane, all good. Thanks for coming by. We'll see. We'll see. I think that the level that Melinda Gibby is rendering the scenes and things, there is definite artistic expression in the work in here. It's not just porn. If it was, I mean, it would just be, oh, I mean, like, what does that even mean, right? Like, does it mean that it's maybe devoid of some heart or some humanity or something like this in a way? Because it doesn't have to be. So, like, when it comes down to it, I think that that line, that kind of idea is something that it's playing with, but there is a lot of appendices to this that I can't show you either. But a lot of artistic um, value to that for sure, to this volume. We'll see. So other than writing, I don't have much else to talk about. um I, I think I did a pretty good job moving through it quickly, and we have been writing. We had a meeting today, Ryan, a meeting this week, Ryan and I, just killing time, just focused on the storytelling and getting this hashed out. It's not something we can hash out. But we have to do a level of kind of getting our heads together as writing happens, and then going, it's going to be a back and forth. It's going to be a whole process. So where we are now, it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of ideas, and we don't know if everything's going to stick or not. We'll see how it goes, for sure. So I'm definitely down to start some Book of the New Sun discussion if my boys want to jump on. Hey, Tom. Yeah. Hey, Tom. And Jim reads too slow if y'all are down. And truly, if anybody else has read the Book of the New Sun, then feel free to jump in and uh, jump on as well. But don't be shy about commenting in in the chat. We can, every bit as much part of the conversation as somebody that's on the screen, right? So we'll see what we get to. Book of the New Sun is an amazing thing. So we started a reading group for this maybe 6 months ago now. We started the reading group way before that, but we started reading it maybe 6 months ago. It probably took us 2 months to read through the whole thing. 4 books, and the fifth book is what I'm talking about with it. Probably took me 2 months to do. I'm not sure about all that, right? But it was divine. It was amazing. And the Book of the New Sun is very off-putting, and people don't talk about the Book of the New Sun, and there's a few reasons why we'll get into. One is because Gene Wolfe writes in a way that it is spoilers. Everything is played a certain way and then revealed to be different later on, something like that, or some crucial piece of information is given to you after the fact, all the time, all the time. So people don't talk about it. That's just like kind of broadly putting it. But also there is subject matter in the Book of the New Sun that is off-putting, very off-putting to people. And so we're going to talk about some of that kind of stuff too. We're going to get to all of it because why? Why not? We will talk about it. I want to talk about it in a way that's more non-spoiler at first, and then we'll just have it completely unleashed later on. So the Book of the New Sun is something that's very unique. And why is because it's like this epic sci-fi tale, like completely epic, something on the level of Star Wars or something, right? Luke Skywalker's story, like the original three Star Wars, okay? But it is distilled down into a character, one character, a character study, right? Hey, Tom.
Hello there. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All
Happy
right.
Friday, brother. Just a little bit of a lag.
Okay. Not sure what I can do about that.
The sound is coming through a little bit before your video, it looks, but maybe it'll work itself out. All good. You just jumped right in. Nice to see you, brother. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to everybody.
Heck yeah. Very cool. So what a read along, huh?
Yeah, you. Oh, hello, Jim.
Yeah, Jim's here too. Happy Friday, brother.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Man, look at that stash.
Yeah, we're like the TV news.
Okay, let's do it. The apocalypse is nigh.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's dark. It's dark.
Hey Jim, happy Friday. Thanks for coming along. This read along
Sure.
was awesome.
Yeah,
Read
I
along was awesome. We finished it a while ago. All of us finished it a while ago. And Tom, you had said that this series, you can talk about it anytime because it lives rent free in your head. It has its own space now. Do you want
Completely.
to illustrate that a little bit?
Yeah, I can make an intro if somebody who is watching is not too familiar with the Book of the New Sun. Gene Wolfe was already fairly successful author in the beginning of the 80s, and he wanted to write a big epic, and so he got an agreement with his editor to write. I think it was between 1980 and 1983 or 84 that they published the tetralogy. Somebody can correct me, but it's around those years,
Nice.
um, and so it's really the Book of the New Sun is in itself is 4 books, right? And so I can show the huge Folio Society edition that
Oh,
I
please
that
go
I
ahead. I'll make you big while you do it. So yeah, like you're saying, he was like a big writer already, and he wrote over 100 short stories, before even writing Book of the New Sun.
Yes, he's a great short story writer. In fact, if somebody has never read Gene Wolfe, I would actually start from the short stories because they are absolutely amazing.
Nice.
And this, like you say, is something peculiar. It's not for, maybe we should be honest and say maybe it's not for everyone's taste because of the, how to say, maybe the work that as a book is asking of you, is demanding of you.
Definitely.
It's not too easy, but once you do put in the work and you invest the time, you invest your reading time and try to look through it, it's extremely rewarding because it's not just difficult to be difficult, to sound difficult, but there is a very clever logic behind it. We can say what is difficult. First of all, the language is full of archaic terms that Gene Wolfe chose from. If I understand correctly, these are all existing terms. So he didn't make them up. He didn't make up, fantasy terms or words. But many of these terms I never heard. I mean, I'm not even English or American, but I had never heard them before, and so I found it difficult to completely understand them. This is why for the first book, I actually purchased the the Italian version, so I could actually read through it, without breaking my head too much. I don't know if you guys found it. How did you guys find the language going through it?
Go ahead, Jim.
A lot of Latin and like Roman Empire era words for what we would think of as common things like soldiers, weapons, things.
Yeah.
And I got a copy of the Book of the New Sun, a chapter guide, which kind of helped with some of the details. It didn't do a lot of explaining, but that it definitely helped. And everything seems to mean something. Every statement he makes has some kind of meaning, and that book helped with that a lot.
Very cool.
Yeah.
This book is a book that is written by Severian, given and then translated by Gene Wolfe.
Yeah.
And the appendices are very telling and expertly done. And even though those kind of ways that he employs certain words to describe things, I think adds to the enjoyment of the narrative. What we have is like a personal account of being the Messiah or something like this, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have a
It's a good way to put it.
and it opens up on a near death experience. Severian is like about to drown in a lake or something, and he's saved. And it's
You said
scary
no
off the
spoilers,
bat,
right?
but it keeps upping the ante because he's saved, and then he's saved by grave robbers. Then he goes back to his where he lives, which is a torturer's guild. And you're just like, what is happening here in this world? You know, it's wild, and you're just so out of your element. But the world is rich, like so rich that you can trust it, and you feel like you're with the language of this thing in the hands of a master storyteller, so you can trust it, and the richness of the world begins to build even in this real immediate sense. Like I say, imagine, Star Wars told from the first person perspective of Luke Skywalker, and, or something.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That sounds a bit like it. I mean, I've read some Goodreads reviews of the tetralogy, and a lot of people focus on the quality of the world building, like you say, right? So they say this is one of the best examples of great detailed world building that's out there, that's ever been published. And I would agree with that, but to me, that's not the point. To me, that the real point and the reason why I love this tetralogy so much, it's one of the best books I've ever read in my life, is not the world building. Yes, I enjoy the world building. Okay, there's a lot of details, but what I really fell in love with is the clever the presence of Gene Wolfe behind the scenes as this clever director, as this clever puppeteer who is unfolding a mystery, a puzzle in front of us, while many other narratives kind of unfold, in a more direct way. This happens, and then this happens, this happens. This is more like a puzzle. And you have the entire puzzle already completely in front of you from the very beginning. It's just that you don't know almost anything about it, but it's there in front of you.
Yeah.
And then it's only with time that the different pieces start to appear, one here, one there, one here and there. And I mean, what kind of brains it takes to create something like that?
It's definitely ridiculous. I wanna kind of try to divide and conquer this, if we can talk about it in that way. Maybe going into it thematically in different ways or characters. Is there anything you want to say, Jim, before I kind of kick us in?
Just right ahead. Well,
what's been said so far, or whatever.
This was the first time that I've read it. Have you guys read it before?
No. This was my first time reading.
Yeah, and this is the first Gene Wolfe that I ever read. Nice. Too.
It's my first Gene Wolfe as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I want.
But I can't wait to get some more.
Yeah, I think from my end, I read a couple of his short stories, a few, in fact, and they are a little bit easier to read, but just as powerful. And then I read his standalone novel that's called Peace. And that is probably at the extreme opposite side from the short stories, because it's even more mysterious and convoluted than Book of the New Sun. I even read online people who try to explain Peace, and I did not understand what these people wrote about the novel Peace. So Good luck if you ever
Wow.
get the novel in your hands.
Nice. I don't have that one. I have Free Live Free. I might check that out. It's a standalone novel by him.
I
But
got the
go ahead.
I got the fifth head of Cerberus. That was
Nice.
the first of his books that I've got, and I guess that's, I don't know, is that short stories or is that
It's definitely
short stories
a
that kind of
clan.
meld into an overall story? But I have yet to jump into that one.
Cool. Do it. I have stories from the Old Hotel. It's an older short story collection of his 80s short stories. I'm gonna do that one for short stories first. All right. So before we tackle the big one, the big character being Severian himself, of course. Severian and everything that happens is so immediate to him, and the characters mean a lot to him. As it turns out, in Severian's experience, most of these characters are female. And as it also turns out, he's a lady killer, and he will hook up with any and every one of them and actually fall in love. He's kind of this Don Juan figure you find very quickly, and it's kind of like, well, okay, what is Gene Wolfe doing here? The first kind of the first character is Thekla, right?
Mhm.
This he's commissioned to like kind of take care of her. He's part of the torturers, and she leads to his first fall. Severian goes through a series of falls, um most all to do with women, and Thekla keeps coming back even before we get to uh the real Thekla and Severian connection, but she keeps coming back in his memory and these kind of things. So Severian is a lover. Severian has a giant capacity for love, and these women all come in different aspects. And Thekla, I think, showed a real, true, just walls down uh, love and companionship. Even though uh, I'm not totally clear, but I don't think he was physically intimate with Thekla. Maybe the only one that he wasn't physically intimate with. Is that right or not?
Now, that kind of opens up the topic of unreliable narrator, right? Jim, you were going to say something because I think it's
No,
along the same.
just as you go through the book, the descriptions of their time back in the tower led me to believe that they had hooked up. But
Yes.
like you say, it could just be
That he was in love with her.
yeah, the narration kind of glitches, from time to, he supposedly has a perfect memory, but it's not quite perfect at times.
Yeah, exactly. He plays with it. He plays with it. And so there's that element which is part of the fun, really. Let's call it the intellectual fun, to try and read between the. It's a whole book novel that needs to be read between the lines, and the good thing is that if you read between the lines, you find something because there is a different layer that's hidden, that is absolutely right there. Sometimes you would think, well, this novel, has got different layers, and you have to read between the lines, but there's not much there. If you dig into this one, you find so much. You find so much stuff.
Right. There's always more and more to dig in with this. And so with Thekla, I was thinking, there's just this kind of love toward her, and always fond memory and all that. And then that goes in a way that is the most completely jarring and or horrific in the first four books of
Yeah.
books of the New Sun. The in there's other parts too, but the first real, I mean, like, it's just horrific when it's like they're parading, and we'll just go ahead and um it's Thekla's story arc. She dies in the Torturers Guild. Severian gets put out because he shows mercy or wants to show mercy to her. And you just kind of assume, okay, she's dead. But then we are invited to the feast, right? where where they're like parading this person out that is going to be fed to the people gathered. Severian has become part of this party, and then things start clicking a little bit with these grave robbers, and that in this world there is a technology, whether it be a chemical or a drug or a plant or something that can trigger a human being able to ingest the substance of another human being and then gaining the experience of that person. So they drink a drug and then they can ingest this person and gain that person's life experience.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is part of the world building. We're led to believe that it's so far in the future that there has been some kind of first contact already, even if we don't know exactly how or when. And as a consequence of that, a lot of extraterrestrial biology, fauna, flora has made it to the Earth, including this type of chemistry. So there is a little bit of a debate whether this is a science fiction book or a fantasy book, and I personally am in the side of the people who think it's a science fiction book because everything has a scientific plausibility, and it seems like Gene Wolfe cared about scientific plausibility while writing it, but it's arguable.
Biologically minded, very, kind of nuts and bolts minded in
Yeah,
in a lot of the stuff. Even though you're left with open-endedness, there is a attention to detail in that. How about you, Jim? You got something to say?
I, the way that it affects him when he's at the feast, is that, do we want to get into a spoiler here?
Oh yeah.
I mean, is that,
yes,
To it. We're just
you
gonna talk through it.
get the idea that it gives people the memories and then they sort of gradually go away. But
Right.
with Severian, this person actually becomes another part of him, a part of his personality, or another actual person.
Wasn't she already in some
Yeah.
in big ways?
Does that go to what is he is this part of what makes him special? I don't know. All of these forces that are kind of working on him to get him to the end result of the whole series.
Yeah.
Is that
We'll get
part
to
of
it.
it?
We'll get to that. What makes Severian special, we can say. What really ultimately makes Severian special is in action from the very start of the book. And when we're left to kind of work that out, I do think that every choice and every thing that Severian goes through is is almost everything is crucial to his next step.
yeah. It's a we need to remember that Gene Wolfe was mechanical engineer. Okay, and I think this is crucial to remember because how many authors do you know who were mechanical engineers? Not too many, right?
Right.
But in with this creativity, what
Pinch on,
he sorry.
maybe.
Oh, was he? Okay. I didn't know about that, but that explains a lot about Pynchon too. People with a lot of creativity, but with that type of mind that enjoys wrapping itself around a complicated mechanism that has many, small parts that all click with each other, and that's a perfect description of the Book of the New Sun. The fact that it's a perfect, it's like almost like looking at the inside of a clock, the inside of a watch, because everything is so taken care of in the minutia, but in a mechanical way. There is very little emotion, and there are some emotions, yes, but like you said, Severian is the protagonist and he falls in love with this, falls in love with that. It doesn't seem like the interior life of the characters is the first thing that Gene Wolfe cared about, right?
Right.
That's my feeling, at least.
Right.
He cared much more about the overall strategic game that he's playing with the novel, right?
Right. Right. That is of utmost importance, I think, for sure. What he's doing with the novel, it's very, very cool. So that kind of arc ends with and there's still growth to be had, but Thekla becomes a part of Severian, and indeed a part of all these people. But Severian is who we're concerned with, right? Then there's Agia. Right off the bat, you meet Agia, this beautiful girl, and she traps him in some plot with her brother to extort money out of him and just kill him. And they don't and they bite off more than they can chew because it's Severian, right? Or did they? Because when it comes down to it, you have this wonderful, I love the showdown. The Laverne, right? The Avern.
Avern, yes.
Avern. This flower that they fight with, right? Razor bladed petals and all this. And there's an art to fighting with this. Agia's brother is Old Hat. He's gonna kill this guy real quick. And he's challenged to a duel and another near-death experience, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so we have another near-death experience that is totally hallucinogenic and weird. And then a Severian is victorious.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what is happening here? And then even after that, okay, there's no judgment on Agia. She's a total con. She's not cool. And there's no judgment. You give her a pass, and then she's hunting you down, and she's your antithesis. She's your arch villain.
Evil. Evil.
Yeah, she's the one, if anything, at that part of the book, she's the arch villain. And you're just letting her come after you like, well, maybe one day I'll have to kill her. Like, what do you
I kept wondering if she was comic relief for a while.
Because I think it's a relationship. It's a relationship between the Severian and a different type of female, the female energy. And what is that? The femme fatale.
Yeah. Again, it seems like Wolfe. I'm not gonna say he didn't care too much, but that's not his main focus. In the story, I think his main focus, at least from a psychological characterization, is Severian and whatever happens inside of Severian. The relationships with the others depend on the fact that Severian is somewhat of a broken person. And of course, I mean, you are raised by a guild of torturers. The least that can happen is that your psyche has some issues while you grow up.
For sure.
And
do we know how old he is? Do we know how old Severian is? Isn't he still a really young guy through like a couple of books? I mean, he's
something like
18. There's a lot of that naivete part to work.
You're right. Like no more than 18, probably 16, 17, 18.
And the whole book of the New Sun, these 4 books take the place over a summer.
Yeah, only in the same.
Unbelievable.
The same year, basically. But the darkness of this character and the fact that the book is quite dark come from the inside, the interiority of Severian and his personality. Is raised to kill people as a job. Okay, and I am 100% convinced that Gene Wolfe's experience with being a soldier in the Korean War is reflected in this, because he came back from Korea with PTSD, Gene Wolfe, and it was a pretty bad case of PTSD, because he could hear a loud noise and he would just fall on the ground, almost collapsing, and this, throughout all of his writing life. So he is putting into writing an emotional issue, an issue that he has, and what a poetic way, what a creative way to reflect on veterans' PTSD through this type of dark character of a torturer. No, what do you guys think?
I definitely do. I like that. I like that a lot. That self catharsis, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm convinced whenever you put pen to paper, whenever you write something, even if you don't want to, there's going to be a mirror down
Right.
there, and it's you. It's reflecting you, and Severian is Gene Wolfe, in my opinion.
Well, and I think there's a lot of credence to that. We'll get to a little bit deeper. I'm willing to say at this point, I think that Tom, big ways, at least concerning the character of Severian and how Wolf illustrates how he is the one, the Neo, the Messiah. I think me and you have a uh, different ways that we're looking at that, and we're going to blow each other's mind when we get there.
Yeah, I mean, because at a certain point, probably through book number 3, if not 4, um, Wolf shows his hand, and at least from the point of view of this mysterious, artifact or amulet, I don't know how we want to call it,
Yeah.
which we've been led to believe in the first 2 books that it's something so powerful that it's been able to save Severian's life a few times.
The
Okay.
claw of the conciliator, right? And it is an artifact,
Oh,
and it's still unclear as to what it is. Maybe it's a stone, maybe it's a relic of a body, maybe a piece of bone or something like this. But that's what we're doing in there. Gene Wolfe has you, and they are. Severian is himself. So what Severian is going through is what the reader's going through, and Severian is searching for where this power is coming from. The
yeah,
power is there. The power is true.
yeah,
He doesn't necessarily have control over it, but it's the search for where is this power coming from.
yeah, yeah. And so now Gene Wolfe does a kind of a triple jump on this because, starting from this concept, he could have simply given us the unveiling of the revealing of the mystery and say, hey guys, here is an artifact that sounds like what it is, but in fact, it's only the bearer of the artifact who is, because he's convinced of its power, that is going through these miraculous experiences, and therefore the consequence is that we can draw the consequence that everything that is spiritual or even religious is fundamentally down to the beholder, down to the subjective person who, because he's convinced of something, then things actually happen. Okay.
Yeah.
But the extraordinary thing is that Jim Wolfe doesn't stop here. He doubles down
Right.
and he goes farther than this, and he says, no, I'm going beyond. I'm saying it's not only that I am putting this in doubt. I'm doubting that it's the beholder or it's the subjectivity. I actually am open to something much more, under heaven, and under heaven, anything can be much more than our philosophies. I think this was Shakespeare of some kind. But he's open to anything that can happen. And he goes to the point where he stretches our little imagination to like like a piece of rubber to a dimension that has very rarely been stretched before, right?
Nice. I
Oh,
like that. I really like that. And yeah,
ancient, just like we're talking about. That's
yeah.
right, Mark.
Gene Wolfe is it's amazing how hard he can flex, and it really seems like he could even have flexed more. It really could. And even
Yes.
even after Birth of the New Sun and all that. Okay. So some of the coolest characters, and Gene Wolfe does have this meta quality to the story. And it's big, really big. A way that he does it is he brings in storytelling itself. We have that whole section of storytelling, right? And these stories are very well done, just really powerful, cool little stories. And also the plays. with Baldanders, right? And the plays that Severian ends up taking part in. And we'll say also with this, before I just open it up, that these kind of things, storytelling and the plays and the characters, all the characters we speak of, and this kind of thing, it keeps coming around and around in cycles in these 4 books.
Yeah.
You get a sense that, but it's not just a circle. It's more like a spiral. Like, we just keep getting a little bit more lofty as we go, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I really felt while reading this the joy, the pleasure of telling a story. Yes, Mark, I completely agree with you. His short stories are incredible, but one of those writers where you feel this authentic joy, right? The authentic joy in having some people around him and a fire, and he's there and he's telling us a story and he's just leading us, and we all kind of like, oh, what's coming
Yeah.
next? What's coming next? That type of, it's a natural gift that somebody either has or doesn't have.
Yeah. 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 What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I totally agree. I, the first time the only time I read the stories kind of dragged me a little bit, or they were a little tedious, I thought, until later, thinking back at them, I think, well, he's telling the rest of the story.
Yeah.
This is all part of,
It's all
especially
connected. It's all
play.
connected.
Yeah. It's all in the play that's what actually happens.
Right. Just with Severian as the autarch, right? So no spoiler in that. Severian is going to become the autarch. We know this. It's ridiculous. Like this, you're trying to figure this stuff out, and then he's in these plays where they are enacting, and by that time, Severian's been on the autarch's property, and he gets caught and imprisoned or something, and then released, and it's like the action, the immediacy of all this action. There's a lot of action in Book of the New Sun, and the immediacy of it kind of fills up your experience while you're reading. But when you reflect on it, there's so much happening off the page that that it's like, that's why
it's almost
so explorable.
Yeah, it's almost as if he wrote a 12,000 pages book, and he only gave us 800 pages out of it, because of how huge the world building is and how confident he is in telling us everything that is connected and related to the action. So that is kind of the engineer mind for sure, right?
Yeah. So Nick Voro, hey, happy Friday. Thanks for coming by. Fit to be Read is in the house too. So I just wanted to shout him out because it's our Friday crew. But Dr. Bacon showed up. Guys, what's happening? Hey, Dr. Bacon, you definitely should check out some Gene Wolfe.
100%.
If Bacon and Gene Wolfe go together like freaking, peas and carrots, right?
Yeah, there's so there is a love of storytelling, and the fact that a lot of people say there is value in rereading Gene Wolfe, not only his short stories, but in particular the Book of the New Sun, because I don't think it's possible to read it all for just the first time and capture everything. By the end of it, you have captured. By the end of it, you have understood what the game is.
Right.
But it really pushes you to
There's so much to tease out.
Yeah.
I mean, look, how many times in those 4 books do you go back to the botanical gardens in your mind or in the imagery and things like this? And of course, Gene Wolfe loved plants and this kind of thing. It's obvious, but the symbol is so powerful. And when it comes down to driving the story, he got to a really big place and delivers an answer. We'll go ahead and we're there. How he becomes autarch, right? but then leaves still all these questions. Okay, well, now that you're autarch, humanity is going to be judged, and you're the representative of humanity. Now you need to steel yourself for this judgment coming up, and all this kind of thing. And who is the conciliator? Is it Severian? Whatever, all this kind of thing. So much is still left open and mysterious for you to for just to feed on, but then you're given more than enough with how he becomes autarch. And I want to finish up talking well, we can go ahead and say how he becomes autarch is another facet to this kind of biotechnology that they have. So there is a very high level drug. Maybe it's just an extract from a very rare plant or something like this. But the autarch has that in a necklace around his neck. And he also has a blade with it. And by the greatest stroke of luck in the history of literature, there's a lot of Deus Machina in this story. Okay? Like Gene Wolfe
is plainly stated too.
Yeah, I mean, you're slapped in the face with it, but the autarch and Severian are in the same place in the same time as the autarch's about to die, and he says, go ahead and swig this jar. It's gonna hit you harder than any drug that you've ever taken, but then you need to take that blade and cut out a little piece of my brain and eat it. I mean, for real, this is like the immediacy of this one individual has to, in that moment, make this choice that maybe only he could make. And this is what it all hinges on.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if somebody is familiar with science fiction series or even fantasy series, I don't think you can deny that this is a very original one. It's just different. It's just different from anyone that I personally read. In under many points of view, one of these points of view is really the work that it demands on the reader. And I can understand somebody saying, I'm not gonna be Gene in the interview with Asimov and Harlan Ellison on Books with Prizes. I've seen that interview, and what really I found striking about that is the incredible respect that Ellison and Asimov, who were people with gigantic egos, were clearly were giving to Gene Wolfe in front of him, because they knew how what an incredible writer he was and how clever he was.
On a literary level, I don't know if I've read anybody like that. I mean, I thought Dan Simmons' Hyperion series was very literary minded, but it was it wasn't as much literarily written. Like, it is literature. What Wolfe is doing with his imagery is on the level of some Faulkner, something like this. There's a deep, poetic, sensual imagery that you can't help but visualize, right?
In a certain way, the way he uses language can remind us of Ursula Le Guin, and she was a great, or she is, sorry, a great fan of Gene Wolfe. She is quoted saying something like, Gene Wolfe is our Melville. That's how highly she thinks of him. So in short, there's this author who many people, even people who like science fiction and fantasy, actually don't know, and he is objectively one of the very best, one of the very best whoever.
Completely brilliant. I mean, look at this short story collection that I found. I'm just going to show it. The New Atlantis. We have Ursula K. Le Guin, Gene Wolfe, James Tiptree. Introduction by Robert Silverberg.
Oh wow, that's brilliant.
It's like it's 3 short stories and an introduction by 4 heavy hitters. I right when I saw it. And it's like, you can't get your hands on Gene Wolfe stuff. It's really disheartening.
Oh,
'Cause I
but
love that, you know,
you know how you have your ways to find.
I have my ways for sure. I want everybody to have it though. I want everybody to experience this. Hey Jim, do you got anything to throw in before we move on?
Nope. Let's move
All right.
on.
All right. Cool. So I wanted to get somewhere with it now. Urth of the New Sun, right?
Mm.
Book of the New Sun is awesome, and we get this story of Severian getting there, and it's wild. We didn't even touch on him meeting that ancient autarch with the two heads,
Or his
and
grandmother.
what an amazing scene, and the implications of that. And now that he's autarch and the implications of that, and it's wild. So we can't touch on everything, but the Urth of the New Sun is completely mind blowing and takes this to a whole nother level. I wanted to say before we got there, I wanted to touch on Baldanders a bit and see, especially what you thought, Tom, about Gene Wolfe's characterization of of Baldanders as the pure mystic spirit. He would take all the knowledge within himself and use it on himself to become what he was. And he was this mad scientist, Dr. Moreau, Island of Dr. Moreau thing, just ridiculous mad scientist. But I didn't really resonate with, of course, it wasn't something you were supposed to resonate with necessarily, but I didn't resonate with the type of being that Baldanders was supposedly to be. He was supposed to be someone that was close to being maybe the one, like Severian, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
There is
to me, he
also,
was more just a monster, and I didn't see much virtue or value in that in him.
yeah, there. My opinion, and something that I think I've read somewhere, but I kind of um, jumped on while reading the fourth book of the series, is that Bold Anders is a little bit of an allegorical stand-in for science in itself, especially towards the end of the fourth, where Gene Wolfe is playing with this, faith or religion versus science,
Right.
spirituality, and or the meaning of spirituality. And so we have the artifact, we have a lot of scientific discoveries, and we have events that look like miracles. So Wolf is playing with all these, and him being a Catholic writer, he's open to the concept of miracles, but he's also open to what we were saying before, which is the subjective experience of religion. And I think the reason why he makes Baldanders so powerful, but in the end a loser, because he kind of loses in the end from
Definitely does.
his, is that he is
Turns
there
into a
to,
brute. He turns into a brute and just, acts out. It's an emotional rage. So he
yeah,
shows himself to be below the
yes,
level of Severian station.
yes, exactly. Might have to do with the fact that you, at a certain level, he's an allegory for the scientific world and science and the arrogance of
Okay, okay, okay. I'm seeing it. Okay. So Baldanders is this kind of compartmentalizing, taking stuff at trying to figure it out in its constituent parts. And Severian is the synthesis of said parts,
I
right?
think it's a it could be a good reading. Jim, what
Yeah.
do you think?
But I was just going to say that's why he seems so frustrated when the extraterrestrials who show up every so often to give him information, they just give him little bits and pieces, just kind of shadows, stuff around the edges, and it frustrates him so much because why don't you just tell me?
Yeah.
But they're kind of doing it because they're doing it for Severian
Yeah.
and
Yes,
not for him.
because there is a plan. There is a plan that
Yeah.
nobody knows about, not even Severian. Severian is the one who knows least.
At
He doesn't
least.
know anything.
Exactly.
He doesn't know anything at all, and everything happens to him. In Earth of the New Sun, we see this even more. The fact that his virtues are very difficult to
I,
make out.
I got you. I
Yeah,
got you.
He never really does figure it out either, does he?
yeah.
He just kind of shows up someplace and just kind of talks and
Right.
just lets it all out, and that starts a religion, or whatever.
Well, we
Yeah.
have that. I mean, what a beautiful book. The ending that Gene Wolfe chose, and this kind of storytelling ending of, the Gospel of Severian.
Oh my. Yeah, that's
It is
beautiful.
amazingly
Very
beautiful.
lyrical.
But so how does Severian get there? Okay, Severian has gained what we might consider, and definitely is from anything we could think of, the pinnacle of human
Yes.
being by
Yes.
being the autarch, right? He's the
Power
pinnacle.
being.
Yeah, he's a collective, and you know, there's obviously a lot of wisdom with that. You don't get a sense that he's any less of a lover, you know. In Earth of the New Sun, he quickly takes a lover on the ship, right? He's killing it all over. And I really do think that this has a lot of meaning to it. There's no way to discredit how predominant Severian's libido is in this story, and as not a definite. Gene Wolfe knows what he's doing, and he's meaning to do it. And it took me a long time to get here. Okay, so let's just say, I think that Severian has a giant capacity for love, and how that's shown in our physicality in being a human being by 99.999% of people is through sex. The capacity you
Your
have for
desire.
love, and Severian is giving it and receiving it all over the place, and so it might be a little off-putting, but you can't deny that he has a huge capacity for love and connection with people.
But he's also a teenager.
Right. Well, not after the helicopter ride with the autarch, sir. Then he's an ageless being,
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty much, and but there's something that is different from Severian's personal character. What we've been learning about the whole series, something unique about his personal character than any other autarch. So what is it unique about his story? He's not particularly virtuous. He's not particularly wise. I think the only thing, the thing that is unique about him is that he has this capacity within him. And so in his judgment, he has been judged to be sufficient, right? The judgment passes with very little fanfare, and you're just like, what? What's going on? But then we're shown, when as a reader you want the judgment. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, the second step on that tree of life is named Yesod, and Yesod is judgment. Traditionally is called judgment. I don't think any of this is coincidental.
Yeah.
And the Yesod, okay, the tree of life can be put onto the human body. And so the crown being the top point, and then shoulders being the two, strength and mercy, and Yesod is going to sit right over the groin. Okay, so Yesod is sexual self-control. Now, it's not all about self-control, because what we're talking about is a capacity, right? And at that climax, ultimate climax for Severian, he has an actual physical climax where he impregnates the universe and gives birth to a galaxy or a universe.
Yeah.
Right? It is sexual, and it is an act like this, and put in those terms. And so Yesod and the judgment and Severian's character, I think that Gene Wolfe is using that system very pointedly to show that um, being able to love everybody and anybody enables him to be the new son.
Yeah. That's a very good reading, and probably something that I'm pretty sure Wolf would agree with. There is zero doubt that Wolf went and sourced some concepts from ancient spiritual doctrines and philosophies, Jewish, and we also were chatting in the Voxer about this concept of the regenerating universe, which is a concept coming from Hinduism. So it's that idea which is so mind blowing of the universe that has a purpose in itself in being born again and again and again in an endless way comes from Hinduism, and this is not me finding out, but it's just me reading articles about Gene Wolfe. He went there and pilfered the concept from Hinduism.
That's great. That's great. So he was too a synthesizer. So even more credence to him being or Severian being an
Oh
aspect.
yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, Jim?
I totally agree. I agree with both of you that the Urth of the New Sun is just overtly religious, almost. I mean, throughout.
Right.
And yeah, it's yeah, and it makes sense of the rest of the series. I mean, you see what's going on behind the scenes, all these near-death experiences. You
Okay,
see what actually happened,
And isn't it so wild that like when it comes down to it, now you can frame and look back on this series and think, even the very first Severian we met was not Severian, not the first Severian, because he died in that. And
Right.
and his son
Yeah.
brought him back.
And there's a in the description of that scene, you see a skull under the water. I mean, he sees the skull, and it's his skull.
Right. And
good point. That's right.
Another him.
And then also, we didn't even touch on the amazing technology that these AIs have, where they can actually create a synthetic person. So that might have happened with Severian a time or two.
Yep.
Yeah.
When they needed him, because no matter what, the essential thing is that Severian keeps going.
Right. As a synthetic person, the more he stays alive, the more information and
well, and he can never die. He can't die because he's already gone back and started his star, and it's just
there's something very realistic, despite all the fantasy, about this concept of a human being who is very flawed, like all of us. He doesn't have any special virtue because, yes, he might be seen as a Christ figure from far away, but once you look into him, he really is not, because he's not perfect. He doesn't have particular ethics or morals.
right.
So he's just a man.
Okay, go ahead.
No, and I don't know. I find it very realistic, the fact that this concept of regenerating almost reminds us of human genetics. Just wanting to regenerate and recreate ourselves as a purpose, apparently in itself.
Yeah, always a drive towards longevity, a drive toward there's a huge argument to be made for religion or the drive for spirituality or religion to be that kind of fight against death or wanting to find something like that, right? And I think that is at play here, but I think also I think more pointedly what Gene Wolfe is wanting to do is show that when somebody is in that place, that Severian has already, by virtue of who he is, made a choice to go into the flow of this whatever it is, you know, the greater plan. So he then therefore gives up his own free will.
Yeah,
You only
he has
have a
accepted
choice.
it. Yeah,
And that whole gospel of Severian, you get a real sense that Severian's not in control of that.
yeah,
He's on the wind and on the whim and on the tides of whatever powers are at play, and he is just there to be who he is. And he has an immense amount of power. He's not scared, but he's not in control either, right?
yeah. You know, Noah and Jim and everybody who is listening, I think it might be worth mentioning the fact that for such a complex piece of work of literature, there are many people who didn't quite understand it the first time that they read it, and so there are some great, let's say, sources and works that people have put out. For example, maybe you have heard about the Al Sabo Soup guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a podcast that goes in extreme detail, almost chapter by chapter, into the Book of the New Sun.
I got him on
And
Spotify after I finished the book. I got him on Spotify because I was like, I'll go chapter by chapter through that book. I
yeah,
will do that.
yeah, exactly. I'm ready to reread it at any time because
At my leisure. I'll do that.
and these guys are great. And then there is as far as I know, on YouTube, a YouTube channel that maybe I can share later on of
Yeah.
somebody who talks about science fiction, where he collaborated with the Al Sabo Soup guys, and
Yeah.
they went book by book and also tried to kind of break it down in 4 different videos or
Are
5
you
different.
talking about Media Death Cult?
Yeah, that's the one.
Man, and what you know, I couldn't get through some of them, but because that guy is just such high energy.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can sustain that for an hour or 2 hours.
Yes,
If
yes,
you're
yes.
by yourself. I need to have somebody feeding me if I'm doing that, right? But
Very, very intense, but
the
it's useful.
discussion is great. It's great. Those guys really have it. They're on a certain level with it. It really is fun to dig
Yeah.
down deep into it like that.
Yeah, it's great to, especially, this is the type of book that you really want to talk about with friends, with
Yes.
other people who read it, because if you're by yourself, you're just, you're not going to enjoy it as much.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a reason why I couldn't wait to make the content here, and I just pulled the trigger on it because I want to open it up for comments. You know, that's what I want to have it on the channel so that it's more ready for people to comment. So this is a video where anybody can comment all the spoilers you want. This is full spoiler comments, all that. So anything kind of closing it out? Any kind of big idea? Anything way you guys want to end your?
You know what? I might go on a tangent that has nothing to do with what we said so far.
We could. There's many other aspects of this book that we could have talked about for an hour.
Yeah, exactly,
Sure.
exactly. It really opens up, but I think it has to do with what we touched on, which is the love for storytelling, the love for engaging the reader into something that the writer is interacting with you as much as possible. And you know, it might sound weird, but the book that really it reminded me, because it had a very big impact on me when I was younger, even before the very successful movie came out, is The Neverending Story.
Me too. Oh, me too, Tom.
Because it has the same focus on the storytelling aspect of reader, writer, and being one thing, being together. No,
I love Michael Ende. He wrote
yes, Michael
Momo
Ende,
as well.
exactly.
I used to love Momo as a kid as well.
Oh, you know Momo as well. That's a great one.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Jim?
Never ending story. Yeah. I haven't read the book. I saw the movie, but yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
80s epicness, baby.
Just the story, the storytelling, almost meta, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was really meta, properly done, without any type of fluff or
yeah.
But it was very, very well done.
Just in the words, just in the language,
Mhm.
it became meta. and you're like, am I seen?
You
Wow.
definitely feel a lot smarter after you've read these books.
Yeah, in fact, the movie was so. I mean, it's a movie, right? So it's necessarily superficial. But Michael Ende, there is an interview somewhere on YouTube where he is ranting against the movie because
Oh
he
no.
hate, he
Oh
hated it. He
no.
hated it.
They did change a lot, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's still
It's
in
only
our
like the
heart.
first half of the book.
Sorry.
It's only like the first half of the book or something, right?
Well, yeah, it's cut short, but also I don't want to talk badly about the movie because it's so much in my heart. You know, I was an '80s kid,
Me
and
too,
I
brother.
and I
I
was
love it.
blown away by the movie.
Yeah.
So I cannot be negative about it.
Right.
It
All right. So, Book of the New Sun. Thank you for reading it with me, guys. Our reading group was awesome. We
was
had
a great pleasure.
Nancy Moonpalm. I hadn't seen her around for a while, and so I hope she's doing well. And Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads. I wish that he would jump in. I don't know if he read Urth and did the whole thing right, but it was a cool reading group. We'll see when people even get more and more into it. This is a series that's going to stand the test of time because it's just such an intriguing
I believe so.
story.
It's almost as if there is is getting discovered still by
Right.
people, even if it's been already 40 years.
Right.
But it's so worth it.
Yeah. I think it has the capacity to just be rediscovered and rediscovered generationally like that. Killer. So good. Thank you for talking, Tom. I think we got to some cool places.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks so much, guys. And so, what time is it for you guys? For me, it's 7:20 p.m. Time
Jim,
for dinner.
thank you so much. Tom, stop. Over there in the Golden State, sunny California. Bro, it is 10:21 at night, sir.
Sorry, I have a couple more hours.
I knew I was gonna go late because I'm like, man, I could talk about Book of the New Sun and Earth of the New Sun for, I mean, uncounted hours. So we're gonna go over, but I'm just gonna cut it at some point because we're never gonna exhaust it, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's a testament to Gene Wolfe's genius. Wonderful storyteller. Read it
Yeah.
if you haven't. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Bye bye,
everyone.
BookTube.
Thanks,
Catch you
Noah.
on the next
Yeah,
one.
me.